welcome to part 3 of the series of videos showing you how to install a camera on your motorcycle. This video we're going to continue to install the VSysto camera system, front and rear. We've already put the rear camera in, and in this video we're going to install a power supply for the camera unit, and we'll probably get on to putting the head unit on here as well. So let's go a little bit closer and let's get into the details of installing it somewhere here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the bracket for the head unit. Now this is very similar to a GoPro mount, only it has a clamp which clamps it onto the handlebar. Now on the NT, the handlebar itself is quite large, so I had to remove all the plastic spaces inside the bracket to be able to make it a fit. And I also had to put 2 longer screws in because the original screws were a little bit too short. So after you've tightened the clamp on very loosely, you can then turn the clamp into a position where you think it's going to be. You don't have to tighten it fully at this stage because we want to put the head unit on in a minute and locate it in the correct position before they tighten it. So here we have the head unit. We're going to attach it to the clamp which we've just fitted, and it attaches very similar to a GoPro mount. It has 2 plastic parts that fit together, and there's a screw that goes between the 2 and clamps it up with a bolt. Now the bolt is already in the bracket from the previous installation, so we'll take the bolt out. We will then place the head unit into the bracket so they both meet together, and then we'll put this retaining screw back in and we will tighten it up lightly, ready for positioning. So you need to get the head unit into a position where it's easy to view, where you're happy with, and once you get it in the position that you are happy with, you need to tighten all the bolts up very tightly so there is no movement. Now I decided to put the head unit on the front of the handlebars, as you can see there. The reason being, on the NT 1100 there's a ignition switch just to the top of there, and you need to get access to the ignition switch to turn the bike on and off. So that's why I put it down there. And once you've got it in the position, as I said, nip everything up tight and make sure that the unit is mounted centrally on the handlebars and there is no restrictions in movement of the handlebars either way, right or left. Now it may be that when you've tightened it in position, you need to find out a nice route for the cables to go down into the motorcycle, because the cables have to go from the moving part of the forks basically across to the side of the motorbike. Now there are other cables doing the same thing, the cables that go to your switches on your handlebar, so try and route the cables along the same route as the cables for the switches on the handlebar. Now I've temporarily put these down here. This is where I think I'm going to put them. I'm just checking it to see if it's going to work. I'm not going to place them here yet because we'll do that at a later stage, and that's where I've decided to take the cables down, and I should be cable tying there nice and neat. So once we've put the head unit in position and the cables are there ready to be used at a later date, we need to install the power supply itself, which powers the head unit. Now while I was in here doing this, I noticed that this fuse holder had come off its holder. It's a little tag that sticks up on the frame, and it just attaches to the fuse holder. Now what you need to do now is to feed all the cables where you think they're going to go, and you'll need a piece of sticky tape Now this one has already got the sticky tape attached to the unit. It's not been used, so I'm going to use it on this installation. Now on this one we have a positive cable, a negative cable, a 12-volt sense lead which detects when the ignition is on and off, and it also has a plug on the end of a lead which goes up to your head unit. And the routing of this cable to the head unit we will do as soon as we have attached the power supply to the framework. And we're just going to peel back this little bit of tape here. It's now got the sticky surface on there, and we're going to stick it to the frame. And once it's stuck to the frame, we're then going to be ready to feed the cable that goes to the head unit right the way through the right hand side of the bike up to the head unit. So these cables here are the positive and negative supply to the power supply unit, and also there's a yellow lead there which is the sense lead which detects when the power is on and off on the bike. Now we're going to connect these at a later date, but first of all we need to get the cable with the plug on to the head unit at the front of the bike, and that's what we're going to do now. So here we are. I've speeded this up a little bit because it's a little bit fiddly. We're just taking the cable to the right hand side, and we'll put a little cable tie in there just to stop it dropping down. And these cables here, which we're going to deal with at a later date, we're going to just tuck them in on the bike just to keep them tidy and out of the way for the time being. Now to get the cables from that point there to the front of the bike, we need to take a screw off the right hand panel, and there's only one screw we have to take out, and that's this one here. Flick it up so it becomes loose, and if you get your hand under here and give it a little pull, there's like a button holding the plastic on, and there's also a piece of Velcro. It's just Velcro tape holding the top of that plastic onto the tank. So once you've pulled this open and you can get your fingers in there, we now need to push the cable, which comes from the power supply unit, take it up to the head unit. First of all, get it through to the first little space there, as you can see in the video, and then once you get it to there, you then have to take it up right up to the head unit. Now I did previously install the rear camera which had a long extension lead on it, and I bundled all the cables up in the back of the bike, but as it turns out I need that extra length because this cable goes right through to the head unit. So once again there was a little bit of fiddling to get the cable through, and also to get the plastic trim fixed back on. If you push it, it'll pop on, and you have to push the bit of Velcro right up so it attaches properly. Now to get the cables through up to the head unit, I used a flexible piece of wire, as you can see here, and I taped on the cables to that flexible wire. Then I poked the flexible wire up from the bottom to the top. Now I made sure that I was pushing the cable towards the edge of the fairing so that I didn't get too close to the engine, and later on in the installation we will check to make sure that that's not touching any of the hot parts of the engine. And I might have to take that little bit of plastic, as you can see there with the screw in it on the top, that's on top of the tank. I might have to take that off to check that it's not touching anything, because I think that's the only place I'm going to get good access, and I don't fancy taking all the panels off, to be honest, but if I have to then I will. So I've just taped on a little bit of rope on there so they don't drop down, and I did that same with the other, putting all the excess cable through so all the cables are up to the head unit and ready to be connected at a later date. Now I didn't have much time to finish the whole installation off, so I eventually bundled all the cables up at the head unit and left them for a later date. Now once you've got the cables all through and you're happy, don't forget to put the screw back on to the bit of trim, tighten it up tight, and that's the cables through to the head unit. So that brings us to the end of part 3 of the camera install, and in the next part, part 4, we will be connecting the power supply to the motorbike. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for now.